Welcome everyone to the ERG Addressing Stereotypes and Bullying session. We do wish we were there to facilitate this session, in a face-to-face format. But we are glad we are here in a virtual format where everyone can remain safe and healthy. Given the format, we promise that we will do our best to this workshop to be meaningful and helpful to you all. A quick reminder, Laura just said, but you can ask your questions at any time using the chat functionality you are probably familiar with at this point. We will address these questions as we go through the presentation or at the very end, depending on how we are in terms of timing, okay? And one last thing before we jump into the actual content, English is not our first language, it's not my first language, it's not Laura's or Kadu's first language. So if we come to use an incorrect term, or if we choose the wrong word to describe something or someone, please feel free to correct us. Please, please, please. All right, we would definitely take this as a learning opportunity. And in addition to that, if we go all gagging a little while trying to build a point or an argument, we apologize in advance, so please bear with us. Introductions first. Well, my name is Renan Henrique. My pronouns are he and him, and I am currently an IS specialist at Dow. I've been working at Dow for the past 8 years or so, always part of IT organizations, mostly involved with data management related work. I am 32 years young, and I'm located in São Paulo, Brazil. In addition to my job as an IS specialist, I've been leading GLAD for the past year and a half. GLAD is the LGBTQ network at Dow, and later on this presentation, during the session, we will share with you a little bit more about GLAD and the initiatives GLAD has been leading in Brazil to address stereotypes and bullying. On that note, we will let my colleagues introduce themselves to you. So Kadu, you can go ahead.
Thank you, and hi guys, I'm Carlos. My pronouns are he and him. I'm 35 years young. I know it doesn't look like it, but I am. I'm with Dow for 10 years now as a customer service specialist. And this is my first time attending the summit and also first time presenting. And it's a very exciting opportunity. So thanks for that.
Well, lastly, I'm Laura. I work at Dow since 2014, so it's been a while now. Currently, I've been working with logistics in Latin America. So as you all can guess, it's a very sexist and difficult, not very friendly gay place to be. That is why I joined GLAD a few years ago in order to be a part of the ally community in order to really give this message around the world and share with this non-very happy place or very sexist place a little bit of our culture, of our friends and our ways, and trying to make a little bit more easygoing on them. On this note, I'm gonna introduce you guys to the agenda. Here we go. We're gonna talk a little bit about Dow and then social structures. We're gonna cover a myth, which we think it's gonna be mind-blowing, and it's gonna be a nice touch to our content of stereotypes here. Then we're gonna dig into the components of prejudice itself. Later, we're gonna talk a little bit more about GLAD, our LGBTQ plus ERG at Dow, and which were our initiatives last year. Awesome. Moving forward. Dow.
Just one thing, Laura, before you start. You all probably saw Tiago's name listed as one of the presenters for this presentation, and he asked me to let you all know that he's sorry he couldn't be here, but you know, he wish he was here.
He is right here in our hearts. So moving forward, talking a little bit about Dow. What chemical industry is, well, involved or has anything to do with an LGBTQ plus ERG? At first, we don't really make the math between them. But as a company, we ask ourselves, how can we solve or can we work together to solve today's complex challenges? And it all starts with the passion and purpose. And at Dow, our people use science and collaboration to create what matters the most to our customers, to our society, and to the planet. So our ambition is to be the world's most innovative, customer-centric, inclusive, and sustainable material science company. We've had $43 billion net sales last year and over 36,000 employees. Our 109 manufacturing sites are spread all over the world, around 31 countries. Talking a little bit more about our vision. We aim to be innovative, customer-centric, sustainable, and here, my favorite personal, inclusive. We champion a fully inclusive workforce that reflects the world in which we do business, bringing the best minds to the table, empowers our employees to exceed customer expectations every day. This is why it's relevant to have an ERG that fights for our queer rights here in Latin America and worldwide. Our reach is very, well, it's big because we have 12 innovation centers and 109 manufacturing sites spread all over the globe. So the idea and this this friendship, this feeling we have within the ERGs are really spread worldwide. So the training itself is about stereotypes. But in order to talk about stereotypes and how they're formed, we need to talk a little bit more of the concept that leads to stereotypes. So I'm going to be covering social structures. Social structures is a term that's been used since the early 20s by the scholars it's been very discussed, and it has a wide range of meanings. It depends on the scholar you study. But it basically says that the social structure concerns the way in which a society is organized through complex and constant relationships which are interconnected, such as the relationships established between individuals through the social roles they play. If you're like me and had to read this phrase more than once to try to understand its meaning, you're not alone, you're fine. So I'm gonna try to break it down a little bit more so it makes more sense to us. Go back a little bit. The word social structure is divided, the concept, the idea is divided into two words. We have structure, which means a pattern, an organization or order. And we have social, which is the concept, the content in which this pattern is made of. So it's more like saying that we break society into smaller groups to make sense to ourselves, right? And this idea of social structure is really linked and connected to the idea of stratification. Let me see if I can make this a little bit more visual to you guys. Well, this made more sense last night when we were talking about politics in Brazil.
Yeah, girl. That's what when we're talking about politics.
Yeah, we're not going to even try to understand what's happening. So let's just forget about this one. moving forward, here it is. I think this is easier to start. When we talk about social stratification, we have the concept that people are ranked in order as they are more privileged or they have more power. This concept, this name, social stratification or social structure, may be quite new since the 20s. It's modern era. But the idea of it is quite ancient. This first pyramid over here is from ancient Egypt, which were like 1,500 years ago. So as we can see here at the top, there was the pharaoh. He was like God on earth. He managed the rules. He was the ruler of the whole society. Below him, we had money, political power, and priests. So the viziers, the officials, the governors, it was all right there, very, very powerful and very respectful according to that society. Right there at the third position, we have the physical strength, which were the soldiers. And down there at the bottom, the last one are the farmers and the slaves. Obviously, the lowest you are in the pyramid, the more people probably there is, and the lesser privilege they have. This last example over here is the caste system in India. This is also very ancient, and Gandhi has fought a lot to break this concept, but it was basically 5 layers that didn't mix together, and well, it defined for a long time the people living in this Hindu society. And the third one, well, that's more like ours, right? Except it isn't. This is from ancient Greek. We just changed the word labor to slave. Slave to labor, which basically means the same sometimes. So it's easy to see that the more layers we have, the more stratified it gets and more complicated it gets, right? So I'm gonna try to show you how many different concepts can be inserted into the same pyramid. We all know we're divided into class, right? This is like basic stuff we learning when we're in school. So let's pretend there are only these 3 classes. We know there's more, but just for sakes of this argument, let's pretend that's only 3. And this is a class stratification. Let's put a little bit more seasoning here and throw a gender classification as well. There you go. See? We've just added the male versus female gender-based stratification. Let's try to put ethnicity. There you go. See, the upper is divided now into 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. So it gets complicated, right? One more. What if we add sexuality and gender identity? It gets so divided and so complicated, it's even harder to display it here on the slide. Imagine to talk about it, right? I'm gonna take a little bit just to make a regression here. Tuesday, we have the plenary and a wonderful talk with Glennon Doyle, which for me, personally, it was actually a show. I fell in love with her. She was amazing. And she was discussing and telling us about her thoughts and considerations on the Born This Way philosophy. She said that even though it helps a lot of people to nowadays, it also confined others. And it depended on the privileges you had. It depended on where you were born, on your class stratification, if you're rich, if you're poor. And that got me thinking, because even in the queer community, we have so many different layers or classifications that a group that is more well-known or has been in the radar of the world for a longer period of time can be perceived as an oppressor by a less represented group, such as, for example, the bi and the fluid community. So this is a very good exercise for us to see that this sort of stratifications and classifications put us into little boxes. And if we're not careful enough, we might be suffocated by it, and we be confined by it, or even worse, confining others on our little boxes, right? So it's a very nice lesson if we're only willing to learn, okay? So moving forward, let's talk a little bit about prejudice.
So thank you, Laura, for that lovely presentation. I sure learned a lot about it. But folks, now the time has come for some storytelling. And in this story, we have a lot of surprises and a lot of drama. And no, I'm not talking about the last episode from Grey's Anatomy. We all know how much that can be dramatic. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the myth of Eros, which some of you may know as Cupid, and Psyche, who is the goddess of souls. It's a very cute story where they fall in love in an unconventional way, and she goes through a lot in the name of the love. And in the end, she is rewarded by becoming the goddess of souls. And I'm here to tell you that this would be a great movie, and all great movies need a great villain. And we are here to talk about her actions. So we are here to talk about Aphrodite. And yes, I love saying that word, Aphrodite. She's one of the most well-known Greek goddesses. But let's just say that she was not very nice. Well, at least not in this story. And as a famous goddess, you would think she already done had hers. But when news came to her that a human, our girl Psyche, was getting a lot of attention because of her beauty, to the point where people start to worship her and bring her gifts, Aphrodite was not here for it. She could not bear the thought of a human getting more love or receiving more attention than a goddess, because she considered humans to be lesser beings. So she starts to harbor feelings of rage and jealousy towards Psyche, saying things like, who in the Hades this girl thinks she is? So she went all Real Housewives of Olympus and ordered her son, Eros slash Cupid, to place a curse upon Psyche. But in the exact moment he was doing that, he got distracted with Psyche's beauty queen realness and ended up pricking himself and Psyche with one of his arrows, making them fall in love immediately. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen after that, but suffice to say that in order for them to stay together, Psyche is forced by Aphrodite to perform impossible tasks. So in a way, she's the female Hercules you never heard about. She's only freed from that torment after Eros slash Cupid asks Zeus to transform her into the goddess of souls. As I told you guys, that's a great movie waiting to happen. So if there's someone from Disney in this session, that's a moneymaker. But moving forward, by now you must be asking yourself, what is this guy talking about? How is that related to the topic of this presentation? Well, plot twist, beside, besides being a great possible movie with lots of drama, and we all love some drama, This story contains all the components of how psychology understands prejudice. We have the cognitive component, which are the stereotypes. We have the emotional component, which are the feelings. We have the behavioral component, which is discrimination itself. So moving forward, I have a concept of stereotypes for you. The stereotype is an overgeneralized belief about a particular category or group of people. It is an expectation or idea that people might have about every person of a particular group, and it's frequently depreciative. How's that related to the myth? In the myth, the stereotype Aphrodite believes is that humans shouldn't be as pretty or inspire more love than the gods. And from where she got that notion? From gods just like her, who were at the top of a social structure that Laura just talked about, with the gods of Olympus at the top, the minor gods at right after it, other deities, and the humans being at the very bottom. So she was thinking, how can someone at the bottom receive more attention than someone who's at the top? But by now, we have talked a lot about the concept of stereotypes. This time, I would like to ask you guys a question. Um, what if we're not such good people as we think we are? As people who are attending a summit with the name of Out and Equal, we all try to be in tune with what is offensive to other groups and be respectful of that. But even us, we do have our biases without even realizing. That's a blind spot because we recognize stereotypes other people apply to someone, but we fail to recognize the ones we have ourselves. In my particular experience, I had the stereotype that Asian people were supposed to be more inclined to mathematics, physics, chemistry, all of these things. And that's not really fair to people who are inclined to arts or literature from the Asian community. That places expectations on these people and make them think as lesser than the other people in the community. I don't know if you, Laura, or Hannah had any blind spots that you would like to comment on.
I'm actually seeing some great comments on the chat. Jessica just wrote, I'm Jewish and I suck with money. I love that. It's perfect.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Well, because in the end, what you see isn't always the truth. So moving forward, we have the emotional component, which are the feelings. These are negative feelings that an individual has about that situation or person, which could translate into rage, jealousy, discomfort, hate, and a variety of other negative emotions. Guys, that's how a person feels about certain situations. You can be the most homophobic person to ever walk the face of earth without ever acting on it. That is to say, Aphrodite could have harbored those feelings of hate, rage and jealousy towards Psyche and humans for all the eternity without ever taking action on it. That doesn't make her any less guilty. And that goes the same for homophobic people. They are harboring these feelings of hate and discomfort by saying, I don't have anything against LGBTQ plus people, but I don't like having them hugging or kissing or holding hands around me. Well, buddy, I got some news for you. You are just as homophobic as someone who goes as far as verbal and physical aggression. And talking about actions, we have the behavioral component, which is discrimination itself. It involves taking action against people because they belong to a stereotyped group, ignoring personal merits and characteristics. In the myth that is represented by the curse and the impossible tasks Aphrodite inflicts upon Psyche. It's the action itself, that being a physical aggression, protests, verbal assaults, creation of professional barriers when it happens in the workplace. But that's not exclusive to individuals. I mean, to this day, we have discriminatory traditions, policies, ideas, laws that exist in many countries and many institutions around the world. I mean, the three of us live in Brazil, so we know what we're talking about. So what is the impact of that? The impact is discrimination itself, the creation of professional barriers, psychological suffering, spread of unfounded and pejorative concepts about social groups and individuals, people being judged before they can even express themselves, and people start believing in those stereotypes. But to me, the worst thing is when you yourself start to believe in the stereotypes people inflict upon you or your social group, because it creates such a pressure and such a hostile environment within yourself that some people can't live with it. Um, and that's the reason why Dow have a variety of initiatives to prevent that from happening to our employees and in our workplace, to prevent all the things I just talked to you about. So now over to Renan. He will explain those initiatives.
1 second, Kadu. I think it's very interesting before Brina starts talking to ask Stuart's question. He asked, please share what conditions are like in Brazil. What are the prejudice conditions we are having in Brazil right now?
I mean, guys, we have like the Minister of Education saying things like homosexuality is an option, like, and that's 2 weeks ago. We have like a president that, I mean, it's somewhat similar to what you guys in the US live with Trump, but we have a president that is very homophobic, very close-minded, and they, they are all attacking the LGBT community, the people of color community on a daily basis. I mean, I just today, I came upon a video of all white people, all heterosexual people talking about how we are all in an even playing field. Like we don't need to have any initiatives for other groups because it's all good. So this is today. This is something I saw today. So that's the environment we're
I
living
guess
in.
the things we struggle with are worldwide, right? I mean, the things here in Brazil, they are quite the same as in every other place. The level might be different at some point, but it's quite the same thing. So on that note, I think we're good to move forward. But thank you, Kadu and Lara. You did a really great job presenting your slides. So before I jump in and describe GLAD and the things we've been doing, I want to apologize because you might hear some background noise. My husband is a sports teacher and he's giving his classes on the room right next to me. So it's about to end. Sorry if you hear some music or noise. As I said earlier, this is the point in our presentation where we will share a little bit about GLAD, and which is our LGBTQ ERG at Dow, as well as some of the initiatives we've been promoting in GLAD Brazil's chapter. Okay, these are actually our takeaways for you guys. We hope that by sharing the things we've been working on, it could inspire you in building similar initiatives by leveraging what we did. These were all basically cost-free or low-cost initiatives, which is kind of important when many ERGs around the world are experiencing a freeze in their budgets, right, due to the global COVID-19 pandemic. So GLAD is one out of 10 active ERGs at Dow globally. It's been around for 20 years, so it was founded in 2000s, and I would like to tell a little bit about the history of it, because I think it's quite interesting. Back then, 20 years ago, a very brave employee wrote a letter, an anonymous letter, and sent to key employees asking why sexual orientation is not listed on Dow's non-discrimination policy. He was saying that he wrote that anonymous letter, but he was hoping that one day he could come out, knowing that the fact that he was an LGBTQ person wouldn't impact his professional career at Dow. During that same year, sexual orientation was added to the non-discrimination policy, and GLAD was founded. In Brazil, it's an ERG that's been around for 8 years, and it has a little bit more of 400 members here in Brazil. Under right here, you can see other different ERGs. So we have ERGs addressing racial and ethnicity issues. We have an ERG addressing disability issues, and an ERG that promotes the inclusion of women, right? It treats gender, the Veterans Network, and Kadu gave a good example about the Asian community. We do have an Asian diversity network, which is kind of new. Well, at least in Brazil, is, to be honest, is in the process of being launched, and is, you know, I think that is something that worth sharing about this ERG, and I'm quite sure you never heard about it, but Brazil has the largest Japanese community outside Japan. So I'm quite sure you will never guess that. And that's because the stereotypes foreign people have towards Brazil and Brazilians, right? And I won't ask you what are the stereotypes towards Brazil and Brazilians, unless you want to use the chat to say it. If you're not comfortable doing that, just think for a second what these stereotypes would be. Moving forward, our ERG has, of course, a strategy, is a global strategy, and we kind of cascade the global strategy to the regional chapters of GLAD, right? And these pillars right here, you can see are the pillars of our strategy. In communication, the first one listed are all the initiatives related to, you know, communication and all the actions and initiatives that are aligned to communications. Is basically the pillar in which we discuss how, when, and why we communicate internally and externally, of course, in favor of LGBTQ rights and in favor of the LGBT community. Especially on those key awareness dates, we usually use the National Day, so the National Day of Lesbian Visibility, the National Day of Transgender Visibility. That's when we are most active, but to say the truth, during the whole year, we kind of communicate a lot with our with the folks who are part of our ERG, the members. Under there, customer experience is the strategic pillar for all those programs and initiatives we promote to help our customers in their diversity and inclusion journey by sharing Dow's best practices and programs. In external partnerships, basically when, how, and with whom we partner with in terms of NGOs, local and international NGOs, and other organizations such as Out and Equal. Education is the apple for Glad's eye. It's through education, it's through the education pillar that we promote different workshops and trainings to all employees, not just the members of the network or the ERG. Through these trainings, we try to help people understand the basics of sexual and gender diversity. We help them understand, for example, what the G in LGBT stands for, what the L in LGBT stands for, and so on. And you might think, well, that's kind of basic, and it must be due, to the society and the communities we live in. We need to start with the basics. We also teach them, for example, the differences between sexuality and gender. And you will be surprised with the amount of people in Brazil that don't know, for example, what is a transgender woman. A lot of people around here, they think that you are gay and you start getting gayer and gayer and gayer until all of a sudden you evolve into a transgender person. So we try to put some clarity on that. We give them the definitions, we give them examples by using famous people or celebrities,
We're just saying that this isn't Pokemon.
Exactly.
We're not Pokemons.
We always joke, we are not Pokemons. We're not evolving into something completely different, right? We are who we are. And for these workshops, we also share, for example, the business case of diversity, and we try to promote courageous conversations with our colleagues at Dow. Employee experience is the pillar in which we promote initiatives to improve the experience our LGBTQ employees have at Dow, and it's through this pillar that we try to promote, and more than promote, we foster a safe environment where everyone feels, welcomed and also valued, of course. We want them to feel like that, right? And through advocacy, we try to be vocal in the defense of LGBTQ rights with local and foreign governmental agencies. Now, moving, excuse me, I need some water. Sorry. So there were 9 or so different initiatives led by GLAD to address stereotypes and bullying. Not only at the workplace, we were reaching and we were expecting that these initiatives would cause a positive impact at the homes, social circles of our employees. We wanted to go, beyond the company's walls. That was the main goal. And I will cover those initiatives. I ask Laura and Kadu, please feel free to add something while I describe the initiatives, all right?
Sure.
The very first one is the unconscious bias training, and this is something that it was not just promoted by the ERG, but also through the HR team at Dow. The main goal, of course, through this training is to help employees or colleagues to recognize the importance of workforce diversity and inclusion, to limit mindsets and biases and recognize them, right, by recognizing limiting after that, and also for them to recognize the impact on workplace interactions and how these unconscious biases could create professional barriers for everyone. And we expect those that attended the training to begin to become aware of unconscious biases. They do a lot of exercises during the training, and I do believe that they leave the room aware of at least some of those unconscious bias they had. We expect them, of course, to shift behavior to get different results. And we ask them to help us creating an inclusive culture at Dow. Okay, communication. Communication, as I said before, we do have a strategy in place, and we do our best to define how, when, why, and to whom we communicate in terms of LGBTQ diversity. One of the things we did was to share to all Dow employees in Brazil short videos with stories of LGBTQ employees. And this was quite a powerful thing to do, you know, because when we were talking about LGBTQ rights and inclusion, a person can interpret that in a very abstract way. So you're talking about a community, right? And for some, it's hard to relate to that. But when you put a face onto that argument, it's easier to relate to and to sensitize to, because by doing that, you're not just talking about a distant slash far away community. You are talking about their colleagues, the person sitting right next to them, maybe their relatives, sometimes their child. Right? So you make them think about it, you make them reflect about it, and through reflection, we believe that we promote understanding, but not just understanding, also kindness and acceptance if we are lucky. So at the bottom here, you see this beautiful colored poster. This was something we did in last year's Pride Month. So you can see our faces are there, and they were all over it. The buildings and our sites, our plants. The poster was placed in elevators, in TVs. It was really powerful because we also gave LGBTQ employees some visibility, right?
Guys, I was I was in one of the posters, and I never
were.
felt so famous. It was really good. I got a lot of attention, so it was a really nice initiative.
It was indeed.
There's one thing here, Hannah, it's very,
Mhm.
very important. We have Anne here saying that for future reference, transsexual is not a very nice term to use. It's better to use transgender.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Anne. That's awesome. Thank you.
We also shared some testimonials of non-LGBTQ allies. They talked about how they became allies, and some talked about how they went from being allies to become advocates. And the intent was to get to those that we usually cannot reach, you know, those that are simply not super interested in listening to an LGBT colleague talking about their life experiences. I do think that allies have the power to reach those folks, and it did work. It does work. In addition to all that, as I said before, we are also promoting LGBTQ employees' visibility, and we all know visibility matters, right? Visibility counts. And but we like to make everyone know who we are, so we can serve as role models. It helps them getting rid of stereotypes they have towards our people in our community. So this photo right here, it was from the National Day of Lesbians Visibility. And this one right here that seems to have been taken in a forest was indeed taken in a forest, the Amazon forest to be more specific. And that's how far we went. you know, we took these discussions to all employees in Brazil, no matter where they were located. Everyone had the opportunity to learn a little about the LGBTQ community and why these discussions are so important for a company to promote. And these other two showing crosswalks painted in rainbow colors. We did this, it was this year, it was during Pride Month. And it was done in our manufacturing plants. You know, we wanted to celebrate Pride, of course, even with the pandemic, but compared to other years, the initiatives had to be kind of timid, right, when compared, and it was not something super original. I mean, we didn't come up with the idea. That's actually, well, not us in Brazil. It's actually something we leveraged from Colombia's GLAD chapter. They did it a year before, and we thought, oh my gosh, this looks so good, so pretty, and we want to do it, and we did it in all sites, and it was really amazing. The feedbacks, people were really excited about it.
Last year we had rainbow cake.
Yeah, and rainbow cake.
And it
yeah,
was delicious last year.
We also raised LGBTQ flags in all sites, and we joke that we are considering for next year to ask them to sing "Born This Way" every day before starting their shifts. But it's a joke. We won't do that, but we kind of joke about it.
No, he's not joking. We were trying to do that.
I'm joking. Breaking the taboo, and I'm not sure if Tiago had the opportunity to join as an attendant. He said that he might, and I mentioned it him because he was the one who promoted the Breaking Taboo initiative. He is the former GLAD Brazil leader, and I know this speaks close to his heart and the hearts of many others, not just him. But this was a series of emails plus videos being shared in a monthly basis, covering topics that people may perceive as taboos, especially in Brazil's society. The feedbacks we received were also really great. People were really interested in learning, in knowing a few things. So a few topics we covered during last year and the beginning of this year was LGBTQ parenting and asexuality, the correct use of pronouns. We try to ask them to insert pronouns in their signatures, in their email signatures, and a lot of people did. It was, you know, helpful, engaging. We also talked about transgender issues and employability challenges the LGBTQ Brazilian community faces, especially transgender individuals. And we can talk a little bit more about that at the end. I can share some statistics for you to, you know, picture the reality they've been facing here in Brazil.
One of them, this first one, LGBTQ for parenting, it was so nice. We had a lot of dads and moms coming to us and saying that they now know how to deal with how to communicate with their kids and how not to be how not to treat it as a secret, you know, how not to treat it as something unusual, something that is a taboo. And it was very nice to see how longing they had of information, how much they needed it. It was very moving.
It was indeed. This one was probably the most, I mean, the one that we got more feedbacks about. It was definitely the LGBTQ parenting. People were really into the whole discussion. Next one, it was Beyond Stereotypes. It was a lecture, and we invited a drag queen named Rita Von Hunty. She's a local famous drag queen who also happens to be a YouTuber. And we invited her to talk about stereotypes specifically. And the actor behind the character, he's named Guilherme Lima. He's actually a teacher graduated in one of the most prestigious federal universities in Brazil. Not one of the, probably the most prestigious
Yeah, the most.
university. And you know, the fact itself helps ending some stereotypes towards drag queens, right? I'll tell you that when she entered the auditorium, high heels, makeup on, dressed to kill. It was the first time we invited a drag queen to
Yeah.
visit Dow, and the energy produced by all those jaws dropping at the same time, we could use to power up one of our plants for 24 hours easily, you know. But at the end of the whole thing, it was simply amazing. It exceeded expectations, and it was so well received by Dow employees. She gained many fans that day. It was funny, it was respectful, it was informative. Oh, I loved it. I loved it. The next one is the Demystifying Stereotypes training. And this is a training our ERG offers, but it's not quite focused on LGBTQ content. It's more abroad. And the training material was actually idealized and built by Laura and Kadu. So I will let them talk about this one because I need some fresh water.
Yeah, this one actually, just to respond to one of the questions that I saw here in the
From
chat
one.
about intersectionality between the ERGs, this was one of the actions, because we placed not only LGBTQ plus stereotypes, but also stereotypes about Afro-Brazilians and people,
Generations.
yeah, generations and people with disabilities. And we were kind of mean because we placed a photo of someone and we would ask the people who were attending,
To be
what
vocal
is,
about it.
yeah, what is the job this person has? And then people were, oh, this and that. And at the end we would say, well, it doesn't matter what job this person has. That's your expectation, that's your stereotype.
Based on assumptions, right? All those
Yeah,
assumptions were based on the stereotypes.
And it was
It was
very funny because people weren't expecting that.
right.
And it's a way to show them that they do have blind spots, you know?
Mhm.
And it was funny because we don't even know what professions those people had, because we don't know. We grabbed the photos from the internet, and it's all in our minds. So it was a very nice way to like throw in their face the bias we had, right?
yeah,
So it was
Right.
very moving. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice exercise to do. I mean, people being vocal about it, they think about it, and they, you know, they tend to, I don't know, reflect and hopefully overcome that.
And the thing is, it's very important for us. It was very important to treat the subject in a light way, in a funny
Mhm.
way, in a way people don't feel judged and then like build a wall. We wanted them to really be vulnerable, you know, to
Right.
really like give themselves and feel the training.
Mhm.
So the more funny we did, the more um, embracing, the more, you know, it was very important to keep the tone of the training very light.
True. The next one is the cultural agenda, and this started at the end of last year. So at that point, the goal was to promote LGBTQ related events. Films they could go to the movies to watch, LGBTQ artist exhibitions, restaurants and bars that that were either owned by LGBT individuals or that we know for sure that were LGBT friendly. And this was inspired by American initiatives I heard while visiting US once, such as the Buy Local initiative and the Buy Black, trying to improve, or I don't know, we wanted them to consumption LGBTQ content and so these are not really things that it's not a thing in Brazil as of yet. So we wanted to promote the consumption of it. So give these things visibility. And as I said, it started last year, but then the pandemic came and we had to change the content of our cultural agenda. We started sharing books and TV shows and series and movies, podcasts. Is still, of course, related to LGBTQ content, but things that they could do at the safety of their places, of the safety of their homes. And people loved it. I always say that I'm quite sure we collaborated for Pose being renewed to a second season through our cultural agenda.
We sure did.
Okay, LGBT history. Did I put? Okay, LGBT history workshop. We ran a workshop on LGBTQ history. It was also during Pride Month this year, and this is highly in line with our education pillar. And the goal was, to in Brazil, it's quite common for people to think that gay people are a product of telenovelas. I'll be really honest with you. They think that if a kid watches a telenovela and there is a gay and LGBTQ character, that kid can become a gay when they grow up. Lots of people, we see people defending this disturbing idea every day in Facebook. So we wanted to demystify the idea by sharing a little bit of our history, going from LGBT men and women living in caves in ancient times, all the way to Sarah Paulson. We wanted to cover a little bit of the history of our community.
Yeah, I mean, to just illustrate to you guys, I've watched telenovelas since I was a little kid, all with straight people, and that didn't make me any less gayer. So I don't know
we
what
also
that
have here
concept
the pray the gay away. That's a concept Brazilians do have,
Oh yeah.
and we hate it. So it's very similar to what you have in the US.
Here it is. There was a slide missing anyway, so it's right here. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay, so during last year's Spirit Day, we invited a psychologist to talk about bullying, to our employees, and we focused the communications to attract parents, especially parents, because we wanted those conversations to reach their homes and their families. We wanted our employees talking about bullying, virtual bullying, cyberbullying or verbal bullying with their kids, right? The psychologist who's named Priscilla, she kind of described the concepts and she taught them how to identify through signs if their child were being a victim of bullying. But one of the things I liked most is that she also helped them identify if their kid was actually the aggressor. Because we always talk about, the victims, and we need to talk about it. We need to continue talking about it. But when you're talking about a school environment, it's important to identify who's the bully, or who's the aggressor, and what to do, how to talk to your kid about that, you know, in order to suppress that. So you can see the auditorium was full in this picture, and everyone was using this beautiful purple T-shirt, and here it goes. One of the most powerful tips I can give you today. It's a free drop of pure wisdom. If you want to make your auditorium full for a nice event, give them a free T-shirt and everyone will come. It did work.
And at the end of it, they came for the T-shirt, but they acquired the message.
Exactly.
So that's in the end of the day, that's all we want.
We reach the people that we usually don't, you know. So that's kind of that way you're not preaching to converted people, as we say. I don't know if that translates well in English. The last one of our initiatives was, you know, one of the things that I loved most, and this we did this year. It was the beginning of year, not the real beginning. It was something around March, so right before the lockdown started in Brazil. Uh, there is a group of employees at Dow that they promote donation campaigns to different organizations assisting people in need. And we partnered to this group of people, the Solidaridade group, uh, to run a donation campaign to a place named Casa Florescer. If I had to translate Casa Florescer, it would be something like Flourish House. So Casa Florescer is actually an organization that offers shelter and support to transgender women that did not find the same support among their families, you know, due to prejudice and discrimination, and that ended up living in streets. So we were able to collect hundreds of donations, women's clothes and shoes, accessories, hygiene products. But in addition to these donations that came from our employees, we engaged one of our customers, Anjos, who's a company that makes mattresses. We asked them if they could donate something, and so they did. They donated 20 mattresses to Casa Florescer. And all mattresses in that house were changed because of that. And you know, right there you see 20, but if I recall correctly, it was 30. But anyways, they were so thankful. You know, by doing this type of initiative, you are not only promoting well-being among those in need, but on the other hand, you are also making people think about their life experiences and the things these girls went through. In Brazil, the life expectancy of a transgender woman is 32 years. 32 years old. So they either are murdered or commit suicide before reaching 33. No, another statistic that is quite scary is that 95% of transgender women in Brazil are actually sex workers. So there is a huge employability issue slash challenge, and this is all due to prejudice and discrimination they face.
In this point, I would like to just take a little moment to recognize Renan on this issue. We've been friends, like ever since he set foot at Dow 8 years ago, we've been friends from the moment on. And I believe he was the first person in Dow Brazil to bring up the discussion of employment of transgender people. So he deserves that recognition.
Oh, thank you for doing that. It was amazing. I get
Amen.
all emotional. Yeah.
We have Katie here mesmerized of about the
Life
statistics
expectancy.
here.
Yeah.
No, about the sex workers.
Oh yeah, that's awful. But you know, at Dow, we launched a program a few years ago. It's been 2 or 3 years, 3 years maybe,
Mhm.
to hire transgender individuals through an I don't know how to say that word, apprenticeship program. So we launched the initiatives, and that actually inspired other companies to do the same. And nowadays in Brazil, well, not in Brazil. Let me be honest. It's São Paulo. Uh, yeah, but companies in São Paulo are doing the same. You know, some companies are doing the same. So you start doing something, and then you inspire others to do the same thing, and eventually you cause a huge impact without even knowing, right? But we won't stop. We want to change the current reality of our transgender brothers and sisters are imposed to in Brazil, and there is a lot of people engaged to do that, and we will do. This will change. This will definitely change.
And I would like to share something as well. We're talking about Dow, and it's been a lot of work to change people's minds. It's not all hearts and flowers. It's not easy. Once I went with Renan to a site to present a training. I don't know if he recalls it, but we were talking about inclusion and diversity and LGBTQ, and all of a sudden, a very high ranked person asked us, "What if I don't agree? What if I don't? I think all you're saying is bull. What if?" And then we were really shocked for a while. Like, what? We've
You
been
guys should
talking
have
for
said,
over an hour,
wait,
and now you're saying
what?
this. What?
What did you just
Um,
say, girl?
yeah.
No, but you know what, Laura, and that's something I think we all need to keep our minds that way. Everyone has their own journey in learning and being, you know, an awareness process. They will get there eventually. We just
Yeah,
need,
no, and the thing you
right?
said, your answer was perfect. We're not asking you to be the advocate. We're not asking you to be the ally. We're not asking you to understand. We're asking for respect. And respect is,
The minimum.
within Dow is mandatory. There's
Exactly.
no, respect is mandatory. So this was a nice answer. I was wowed by your answer because I would never have thought of it. And it was spot on. We're not asking for anything but respect, you know?
Mhm.
So it was really important. And above all, if you're not moved and you're not touched by the human aspect of it, it has also a capitalism aspect of it. We're making business, we're making connections between
Mhm.
companies, and we're branching out. We're
Yeah.
making business. This is
Yeah,
also something.
it's not just the right thing to do, it's also the smart thing to do. I guess that's what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah.
And it's true. Yeah, there's just a bunch of things we can do. I mean, when they are outside the company, but inside these walls, you have to respect all your colleagues. That's mandatory, as you said. Now, these were all initiatives, and we just added this slide about the role of ERGs because, you know, we do believe that we are our ERGs, are the members of our ERGs. We are key people addressing issues related to social sciences, such as the ones we described in this session. But you know, we have to do it. I do think that we have a responsibility of promoting these discussions because we want, of course, to change the workplace and you know, to have an environment where everyone feels safe and welcomed and valued, as I said earlier. But we want more than that. We want this change to actually impact the communities in which we live in. The culture change we want to promote is not just within our companies, right? We want to change the society. We want to change the world, and I doubt anything can stop us at this point. So these were the things we did, and this was the presentation. I don't know if we have time or not to answer a few questions, if there's
We
any.
have a lot of questions actually, so we have to go like, let's go. A few comments. Good stereotypes. Well, that's debatable. There isn't actually a good stereotype. We may perceive them as good,
True.
but they might
harm.
cause harm, in the sense of, we have just been through Yellow September here in Brazil, which is an anti-suicide campaign we have. And a lot of people feel so much pressure by these good stereotypes, they end up committing suicide. So we have to be aware of our biases being controlling someone else's life, or contributing to bullying, you know? So it's not really a thing.
Yeah, you're placing your expectations on someone who doesn't deserve it.
True.
They have nothing to do
Someone
with it.
said here that actions are louder than words. Totally agree. Perfect comment. We have now a few questions. The stereotypes for Brazilians. We have
Those are
every
good.
Brazilian playing soccer. No, we don't.
I can't.
I cannot.
Me neither. We have all Brazilians are beautiful. Well, thank you.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
This one I
That's
am.
not true. Just come to Brazil, walk around, and you'll see. We have all Brazilians know how to samba.
I don't.
No.
My
I do
husband
not.
does. I don't.
do, but not everybody. And actually, some people are just
Awful.
no. And a comment here that I loved, I even snipped it out of the chat. USA perspective, but we are so insular that I don't even think I know of any widespread stereotypes about Brazil. We even decided we know better than you how to spell it and change the S for a Z. This is perfect. This is awesome. I loved it.
Very honest.
We don't have monkeys. So I've heard that we don't have monkeys walking around the streets. We don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do not.
I wish we did. No, actually we do some, but not every location in Brazil. Like it depends on where you live.
Yeah, the country is huge. So
It's huge. Glad. What does the letters means?
well, at some point when it was founded, it actually it standard for gays, lesbians, and allies at Dow. But at some point during our journey, we realized that it was not really that inclusive, because it was gays and lesbians and allies. I'm sorry, gays, lesbians, and allies. Yeah. So we decided that it wouldn't stand for anything. It's just the name of the ERG, and we try to promote LGBTQ inclusion through it and through the initiatives we lead. So it's not actually an acronym. Is that the English word for it?
Yeah, but no, it isn't. But that's the word. But no, it isn't. Yeah. Someone wants to know what is the count of allies versus the LGBTQ inside GLAD? Do you have that?
Well, the last time we sent a survey on that, it was 80% of allies and 20% of LGBTQ individuals.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
How do we measure success on our workshops? How do we, one, engage them, And how do you measure if it's working or not?
Through different surveys, basically. You know, we every now and then we send out a few surveys with key questions, and then we come up with a few metrics to understand if there was an impact, how that person, you know, received that information, if they feel like it was valuable or not, and that sort of thing. So mostly through internal surveys.
Yeah, thank you. Well, besides that, I have two more comments. One, someone asked if we can share the LGBTQ history process we used as an initiative this year. If this is something we can share with them, perhaps through the files in the Work Summit page, perhaps something we can share.
We can share, the presentation is actually there in the Files tab for your reference.
No. He wants the initiative we did in Brazil, the
history
timeline, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, the workshop about LGBTQ history.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I can share that. Let me check and I will post. No, it's in Portuguese, that's true.
Yeah,
Will
well,
that
you
work?
can Google it. I think it's quite similar. Google Translator goes a long way.
Oh, you know, now that we say,
lastly,
I'm sorry, now that we say that it's in Portuguese, I reminded of another stereotype people have about Brazil, is that we are Spanish speakers.
no, we don't. We don't.
Yeah, that's
Actually, we suffer because of that. We're isolated. Only non-Spanish speaker country in Latin America. But
I saw here just one very interesting question about where GLAD is based and how do we reach other manufacturing sites. And I know if Thiago is hearing us right now, he was during his tenure as our leader in GLAD before Hannah took the crown. He was like a huge force behind that.
Definitely.
He reached to the site leaders and we did trainings in those sites and everything. Hannah can talk more about that.
Yeah, so that's a really great question. And you know what, last year when we attended the summit in Washington, and the content of our workshop was actually how we took the LGBTQ to our manufacturing sites in Latin America. And it was huge, it was really great. But we had a strategy because at some point in the history of our local chapter of GLAD, only 2% of all members were located in manufacturing sites. 98% were located in the head office, in the main office. And we wanted to change that, and Thiago led that initiative, and he did such an incredible job that nowadays 52% of all our members are located in manufacturing sites. The message we share in the main office is the same that gets to the manufacturing sites in all Latin America. We wanted them to have the same opportunities, the same tools, the same access to the materials we have in the main office, and so we did. We have focal points identified in each of the manufacturing sites. We have a steering team in each, a small steering team, but still people that are very engaged and help GLAD's message reaching every Dow employee, no matter where they are located. I hope I answered the question.
Well, just to wrap up, I loved the idea of the rainbow cake being the evolving stone to be super gay in the future. You guys rocked. This was awesome. Thank you so much for the participation on the chat. It was very, very nice being here with you guys today.
Yeah,
it was great.
Thank you so much for attending. And please feel free to connect us through LinkedIn if you want to. If we did not answer one of your questions and you want to try to reach out, through the social, through LinkedIn, don't hesitate doing that. We will definitely reply as soon as we can. And that was it. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
Take care of
Bye-bye.
yourselves. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh my gosh, amigas. Oi, Laís.